Okay, first up is Joshua, and we can see a desert background here. Um, says Golden Wolverine Studios, and the logo fades in inside the sun. So I guess what I would say, well, let me just go to the end first, and then I'll have a Golden Wolverine run into the scene to land on top of the studio logo. Then it says a short film by Joshua. After the studio logo fades out, I'll add some of the credits. Finally, I'll have the first shot will appear. So, first of all, yeah, desert background. You could probably use a photograph or something. The drawing seems kind of sketchy. So, I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, you probably just want to use a photograph. Um, Here it says the logo fades in inside the sun. So part of the assignment is to actually design the logo. So just writing the letters isn't really what we're going for. We're going for like an actual sort of logo design. And then if it's going to fade in inside the sun, draw the sun. Um, and then this part is kind of the most problematic because I'll have a golden Wolverine run into the scene. So we don't really have a way of doing that. The assignment isn't really suited towards doing kind of a full character animation. So it's more about having, objects moving in and out kind of in a very kind of 2D move fashion. Like the whole object, it's, to get the whole character to start moving is really beyond the scope of the assignment and the time that you have. So I think you'll have to find a way to simplify the idea. You could have the, you know, Wolverine move in from the side, or you know scale up, or fade in, or some combination, but you won't be able to have it run into the scene. um, and again, it's better to kind of design actually what you want to do with the text. So yeah, so I think that conceptually it's all fine. I think the drawings could be a little more detailed and better to get a better idea of, first of all, what the logo is, and also some more detail on the Golden Wolverine, and get that drawing cleaned up a little bit. And but yeah, you'll have to change the concept to sort of suit the scope of the assignment. Next, we have J-Min, and it says each lines go in and out in order. Gun sounds for each line. So I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, I think that's interesting. And then the studio's logo fades in. Um, so does that sort of match the star then? Is that the idea? Like this is the M on the star with a line above it? I guess so. So that's interesting. And then fades out, and then presents a short film by Jamin Encounter. Okay, I think this is, definitely more suited to the concept of the assignment and the scope of working with After Effects. The idea of the lines animated in and having a sound to go with each one is good. If you wanted to take it further, it might be interesting to do something besides fading out, like maybe to have very quickly the lines kind of depart in a similar way to the way they came in, just these little line segments. Might be something interesting to try, but just very quickly. Um, yeah, I think this works okay. You might want to do something a little more interesting with the movie title, because yeah, I mean, it's just text appearing, so which is certainly possible. That's done, but I think that the assignment is to kind of explore what you can be doing with After Effects and those kinds of things. So I would try to get maybe put some more creativity into the movie title itself. Next up is Vivien. So we have question marks rising up, and then to lift it into view. So the question marks actually push up the obscure company productions logo. And one person chatters, the other goes, huh? then it falls down from the sky, and someone's enjoying music, and gives them thumbs up. I guess these are the three different possibilities of what you want to do. Okay, so I would say because these last number two and number three involve character animation, which is really beyond the scope of what we can do in this class, I would suggest staying away from those. And so this one has the most potential, but I think what I'd like to see is rather than just writing out the words, is to carefully design the actual obscure company logo, even if it's text. What kind of text, and what are you doing to make it interesting, and how does that text kind of express the idea of the name obscure, which is actually kind of difficult when I think about it, because just by the nature of the word obscure. But maybe I'm sure you could come up with something clever. And I think the question marks certainly help describe that. But I think how does the text itself sort of express that? Start with this one. The question marks are interesting, and it'd be cool. One thing with this that'd be nice is like, and you already have some of the question marks are bigger and some are smaller. So what would be nice is to get a sense of depth where some are in the foreground and some are in the background. Is like the ones in the foreground move faster and the ones in the background move slower to give a sense of distance. And another way to approach that, and have them going at some different speeds and that kind of stuff. There's also the 3D functionality in After Effects where you can put these question marks at different depths, which could be kind of interesting to do. So yeah, I mean that could look pretty good if you put some work into it. Put some motion blur on and those kinds of things. If you have any questions about any of those things, let me know. I can demonstrate that or point you to some examples. So I see the title sequence here, part of that Vivien's thing, and so we have sharp bullet, and I guess that's a gun on either side. Obviously, you're going to have maybe you'll get a photograph of a gun or an illustration of a gun. They sort of look like, I know they're supposed to be guns, but they kind of look like a drill, like a power drill right now. So work on the design, and if you're going for an Old West style, make sure you get an authentically Old West gun, like an old revolver, that kind of thing. Two gunshots cut through the letters. Yeah, I think that can work well. Can be interesting. Maybe you can even do it at an angle instead of just perfectly straight. That could be kind of interesting. But I also think you should really, rather than just, roughly writing out the text, just really think through, what kind of text you want and how that best expresses the kind of mood of your piece. So you could go a little further, and, I'd like to see some more detailed drawings. Next we have George. We've got camera following a tumbleweed. Tumbleweed goes by a building with a wanted sign. Here's the wanted poster. Camera slowly zooms into poster. And studio name and logo show up on the wanted poster. Camera zooms in. Words fade and shows the title, the first shot. Oh, that's interesting. Alright, and then title fades and changes to wanted. And then the wind blows the wanted poster off the wall. Poster flies off wall. Then the camera follows it. Poster then, which becomes the first shot of the short. Oh, flows over character. So I would, but just because of the nature of working in the kind of 2D, stuff in After Effects, I would tend to not try to get this paper thing to go in there. I would just keep it separate and do a fade out at the end. I think this is a pretty good concept. I think this could work well. Let's just take it from the start again. So yeah, I think make sure if you're going to use like a background photo, you probably want some very big kind of panorama, so you have room to kind of have the camera follow across. For the tumbleweed, make sure you look at some reference of how tumbleweed moves. it's got this kind of very light, sort of almost gravity-defying, bouncy nature to it. So take a look at, try to find some video reference of that. And it's a nice way to draw the eye into this. I like to zoom in on the poster. I think that's all very doable. You just need to find a nice background image there for the building to zoom in on. And I think all this stuff works. I think this paper peeling off and flying away is going to be the more challenging part of this, to make it look like real paper, or even stylized moving paper. It's not an easy thing to do. So yeah, there's not really an easy way of doing that. It's going to be a fair amount of work any way you do it, but could end up looking good if you put the time into it. There's not really a way in After Effects to bend paper. There might be some effect out there. I'll have to kind of take a look that would do kind of a bending, curling page. I'll take a peek. I'm just in After Effects, and I just chose a image here that I had handy. If I just type in page in the effects window, you can see there's this CC page turn, and I'll drag that on here. And you've got this little thing here, which it's a little hard to see on that black background. But you can see you can turn the page, and then you can just animate this, so you can keyframe the fold position here, and then go forward a little bit, and then pull this off, like so, and then you get that animated curling up. So that could kind of get you started, and then maybe as that's happening, you could hit P here, and then keyframe the position, and actually rotation as well, and then have that move and rotate, so altogether you get this kind of peels up. I mean, obviously you need to put more time and work into it, and that it would be interesting to try to combine multiple page turns too, because you can put more than one on. I'd be interested to see if you can do like instead of that, like the top left, and then so you could have multiple page turn. I'm not doing a great job of it because I think I adjusted the old one, not the new one. Hold on. So here's the new one's number 2 is down here. So that's the bottom right corner. Make this one top left, and then maybe as that one's peeling, I'm just doing this kind of quick and dirty, but fold position, and then that could be changing to. So the point, I don't really like the animation I've done. I'm just sort of showing you the tools here, but the idea is there's a few things in After Effects that could sort of get you started on what you had in mind. So this is Jersey, and first of all, great drawing. It's nice to see someone putting in a lot of time and effort into their drawings, and being detailed, and you've definitely done that. I mean, look at the gun, look at the perspective on the bullet shell as it bounces towards the screen. It's just really good work, and clearly time and effort, some real thought on the text and font that you've hand designed. So this is exemplary work, really good. I think that this is challenging, but I mean, it's just from these drawings you seem like someone who could pull it off. I think it's almost like you have the some of the frames already drawn out, so you would just have to do the rest of the in-betweens, and just this approach could be doing just a hand-drawn animation of it, would be one approach, and it'd probably end up with a really nice look if you did that. And you seem like someone who would be able to pull that off. So, these are really nice. I'm not really sure how they fit into this storyboard or how it all comes together here. Let's look at the next one. So you have moving smoke. For that, what I would get is some, just find some smoke online and download it, a little video of smoke. You should get like a YouTube downloader on Firefox and download it and try to find something on black, and then you can um, alpha luma key it on the black and just blend it in with the background. Um, and you have him blinking. Like if you keep it as simple as putting smoke on and having him blink, I think you can pull it off. If you're trying to do full character animation, it's going to be too much for this assignment. Not sure what's happening here. It looks like an image with blood splattered on it. Smoke leave out. Looking at card. Okay, but I do really like this sequence here with the doors opening and the sawdust logo there. So excellent drawings, a lot of good concept stuff in here. Really excited to see what you do with that, but great work on this. What's not entirely clear is sort of the progression of the storyboard, how one thing leads to the next. I understand the bullet bouncing towards the camera. I understand the saloon doors opening to see sawdust, but I don't exactly understand what is going on with the character or how it fits into that. So, maybe just a little more clarity around that would be helpful. But all that said, excellent drawings and design work, and this looks really promising. Next up is Anna, and we have Animator Productions, very clever, or on a TV, or on or an old movie camera. Out of these, I guess the TV appeals to me the most. I think, as you mentioned, the A is a bit boring. I would drop that. A lot of the other ones could work. I think if you had the pencil writing that out, but that's actually pretty challenging and time-consuming to pull off well. So yeah, that's my vote. But you could try any of them. Okay, the bullet's fired, zooms to middle, begins a 180-degree move, rotates around, looks like it pulls out. Bullet hits wall and comical squeak. Bullet falls to ground, bounces a little. Cowboys and clowns. I like the kind of cartoonishness of the squeak thing and falling to the ground. I think I don't exactly know how the bullet rotating it around sort of fits into the idea. It almost seems like you could kind of just make something out of these last four. It would be sort of simpler. Cowboys and clowns would be good to get a little more design work on the title itself there. Okay, the door opens, reveals Chaplin silhouette, takes off hat, reaches out of view, replaces with cowboy hat, title fades in. I think what I like about this a lot is that it's very iconic and simple and clean. It's kind of very eye-catching, and it makes me think of what you might actually see as a title, and it works well with the Cowboys and Clowns name, because Chaplin is sort of the clown, obviously, and then Cowboy. So I like this one. It's just, again, I'm trying to steer you guys away from doing full-on character animation, but I guess this has sort of few enough frames of animation that you might be able to pull it off, because the character doesn't have to move that much. He just has to kind of reach off screen and change hats. So might be doable. It's pretty clever, pretty good one. I think that this, gets the point across with the, cowboys and clowns concept. I guess with the clown-like cowboy boots with spurs and the cane. I think that's a clever image. I guess I would just say that the animation itself, there's not much going on. It's mostly all in the drawing and then really the text appearing over it, essentially. I mean, there is the camera pan, which gives you some sort of movement, but there's not any kind of clever animation itself in here. So I think, the concept's great of the sort of, clown shoes with spurs. I think that's very good. But I think, just kind of coming up with something more animated to do with them would be better. But you came up with a lot of good concepts and all really unique, sort of well thought out ideas. So I think this is very good work. Next, we've got Wilson, black screen with desert sound effect and walking sound effect. I'm not exactly clear what this is. Frame goes revealing person. Frame goes up, revealing person. Walks up towards face. Oh, so it's an upside down sword. Okay, that makes sense. The handle's kind of crazy. So Valkyrie Studio. Yeah, I think that this one, I think, the idea of having a sword on the ground as kind of an idea is not bad. I just think that, as I've mentioned in some of these other critiques, something like a walk cycle as a full character animation is really beyond the scope of what you can complete in this assignment. So I don't think this idea is going to work well for this assignment. Okay, worst day ever. Looks like they kind of move out of frame. And 3 gunshots. And I guess those are sort of bullet holes cracking around where the words are. Break like a mirror. Okay. So a screen breaks like a mirror. I guess that's what you're saying. I think this is, the drawings are really minimal kind of effort, and I'd like to see this a lot more fleshed out. What does the text look like, and what do the cracks look like, and is there kind of any environment around them, or is it just black and white, or what are we really looking at here? So I think that definitely kind of more effort could be put into designing this thing and fleshing it out. I think that bullets hitting words is a workable idea for the assignment, but I just think a more fleshed out design would be better to kind of express that. This is Leo, and start with black, and Outlaw Productions, where the sun is the O, and kind of have Western style writing. Looks okay, and letters fade out, spur stays, walking and spur sounds. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not a sun, that's a spur. Okay, I think that makes more sense. Maybe, yeah, we'll look at some reference and look at the design. I thought it was like an icon of a sun. So this says boots in background fades in, as you mentioned in the comments, and walking and spur sounds fading in, and then divine. So fade in. I guess the spur is spinning. Short by Leonardo Juarez. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the concept's good. I think this works well. I mean, it all comes down to the quality of I think the illustration and the image, but I think more thought on how you want that text to be looking, and maybe this one as well. I'm not really getting the last frame, I guess. Boots fade in, but then it looks like we're looking at a blank ground. So I don't know what happens between here and here and here and there, so that's not that clear to me. But I think that these kind of concepts are good, and it's working well. And yeah, I mean, if you have some quality illustrations or alternatively photographs that you clean up, that could look pretty good. Next up we have Haley, Out West Productions, and it looks like a horseshoe and a guy with X's over his eyes and a horseshoe on his head. Zoomed in, and bright orange cactus out west. Fade in. Okay. Well, I like that out west made out of cacti. That's interesting. Don't know exactly what's going on here with the zooming in. Let's look at the next image. So that's a cigarette. And or a, is that like another cigarette or a toothpick or something? Sticking his mouth. I'm kind of not seeing how that's all coming together. Let's look at the next one. Desert, open, zoom into sun, bright sun, orange cactus, through gun barrel, out gun barrel. Ouch. Don't really get how you're going from here to here, like the cacti to the sun barrel, and then back to this cactus. That's, unless these are two different ones. Is that the idea? Oh, I see. This one is the sun, and you zoom in and you see the out west logo. This one you go through the gun barrel and you see the out west logo. And this one you see the guy prick his finger and then it zooms out to out west. So there are three different ideas. Yeah, all interesting, all probably pretty doable. I think the one I kind of think is clever is this one. It's sort of funny. The only problem is sort of the animation of the fingers, but if you just kind of move the hand in and jerk it back, or maybe just have like a couple little quick hand pose, either drawings or photographs, that could look pretty interesting. I just think it's sort of clever, and sort of what everybody thinks about when they look at a cactus is how sharp it is. So that could be kind of good. So yeah, all good ideas, and pretty well fleshed out concepts. So good work on that. Okay, next up is Deontay and flying blimp soaring through the sky. Blimp gets closer. Waving man more visible. While blimp moves up, the eye is opening. Waving man is leaving the scene. Eye is open with words appearing. Open eye productions. That seems very clever and original. I think with the simplicity of the animation, it would be doable with After Effects. And it's interesting. I think you might think of a better way of incorporating the text here. I think there could be, I don't know, bigger, clearer, or maybe somehow more incorporated in the scene with just them than just them appearing. For example, the hot air balloon could rotate, and on one of the sides we see the text, or maybe the balloon, part of the balloon is out of shot, like the top or bottom of, the top of the balloon or the bottom of the basket or something, and then suddenly when kind of it moves so that you see that part, that shows the text, or I don't know, maybe just something maybe a little more clever. But this could work too. I mean, it kind of, it seems to be laid out in a sort of an interesting way, but I was just thinking of something more clever to reveal it. So you have a logo idea, but you don't have the movie title, so you'll want to add, Open Eye Productions, and then, a movie title afterwards, some kind of title animation. Next up is Basha, and we have a Halftone Productions, Train Tracks, and a close-up of a train, Bullet Train. Okay. I guess, oh, I see, and then like as the train's moving through the shot, a short by Basha got 3. Then it comes to a stop, and you have the Halftone Productions and using the Halftone effect. Yeah, I think these both are interesting and have some potential. but they don't necessarily go with the rail in the same way. So I think it's sort of like one or the other, you know, either this design or putting them on railroad tracks, but I'm not really too sure you'll successfully combine those if that's even what you were thinking. Um, but this looks good. I think this whole thing is pretty well thought out. I think I might do the train just to kind of make this more doable, more from the side than this sort of three-quarter view. I think that's going to make it a lot more doable for this, After Effects assignment. And train pulling right reveal setting. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that you could try that. That might work, but probably I'm just generally not necessarily recommending doing too much to try to transition into the animation, since that's going to be 3D animation versus the more 2D After Effects title. It'll be hard to blend the two. So you could probably just end, here. First up is Zanna, and nice clear drawings that you obviously put some effort into. So the clouds separate. They continue to separate, and the moon appears, and the moonlight shines through on the water. And clouds almost leaves the frame. The moonlight, the water starts to sparkle. Then the magic sparkles rise in the air. The background fades to black, and the magic sparkles start to move, and they form the words Moonlight Magic Studios. Yeah, really nice concept, well drawn out. Clearly a lot of effort put into this. Even the text looks really nice. So, great work on that. I think that, how the sparkles are going to form the text might be challenging, just depending on what you have in mind and what that could mean a lot of things. Magic sparkle form words, like, does it need enough points that it builds the whole shape of the letters, or does somehow they glow bright and then disappear and what's left is the text? Depending on how you do it, that could be more or less complicated. Create logo first and then transform to that. Well, either way, I think that's challenging, again, depending on how you decide to do it. So we've got a glass in a saloon, a Zanna Copeland production, and some beer, I guess, is poured into the glass as a woman walks in. She pulls a gun. Again, very good drawings. And pow, the glass explode, and then the liquid splatters. Vengeance. Again, great drawings, great idea. I think this one's going to be a bit much for the limitations of the After Effects assignment. I think it's just with the women's movement, getting the glass to look good and the liquid splatter to look good. It's all not easy stuff. It's pretty advanced to get a really nice version of that. So as good as the idea is and as good as the drawings are, I think that the execution is going to be hard enough that I might stay away from that. So, Zanna Copeland production, Vengeance. I'm not exactly clear what we're looking at here. This looks sort of like an ashtray. We put a cigarette in, so clearly it's an ashtray. But I'm not exactly clear what that means. Unless it's just somebody putting on a cigarette. Oh, I guess that's what it is. Sorry. Yeah, that's somebody just putting on a cigarette. So I'm also not clear on this. What is that shape exactly? So yeah, I mean, again, nice drawings. This one's not quite doing it for me. I find it to be a little unclear and of what the image is at all, but also sort of what the motivation is or what you're trying to get across. I guess sort of someone angrily putting on a cigarette implies vengeance, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. So I think would prefer, you know, probably the first one, just because it's hard to find a way to do the other ones. So next up we have Melissa. Starts out with sunshine. Credits made out of the clouds. I'm not clear what you mean, and that's not showing up in this design. The dust cloud below. Knife in the back. Title is seen in the dirt. More dust clouds below the title. And then pans up to reveal the bad guy. I think that's going to be tough. Because credits made out of clouds, how are you doing that? What does that look like? Does that kind of play out? And if you can design it, it should be in your storyboards. Dust cloud blows. Again, how do you see that blowing? Do you see it by blowing apart the clouds and getting clouds to sort of dynamically blow apart in a way that looks good is really difficult. Knife in the back, it's fine, but it's like, how is that? Again, is that if seen in the dirt? Does that mean that the wind blew the dirt in such a way that it's forming those letters? And if that's the case, yeah, that's a pretty challenging thing to do to make it look good. And then again, how is the dust blowing? What is that image that represented by? Finally, you have a bad guy. So I think this has a lot of significant challenges and questions involved with it. So I would take another pass at your idea, because I think that some of this dust and the blowing away of clouds and this stuff is pretty tricky to do really nicely. Next up is Clive. So it starts out black, some letters are moving. It spells out Sylvain Sam, and Sylvain Sam Studio presents the bank's defender, and then a drawing of a bank. Okay. Let's look at the other one. Camera moves forward. Oh, camera moves toward, sorry, the bank design. And camera moves back, transition to the real scene. Yeah, I wouldn't try to do the real scene transition to it. I mean, you can just fade into it, but trying to get it all to match up right now when you haven't even started that is not a good approach, I don't think. So I would just focus on this being separate from the scene. Yeah, I think that your design, your drawings sort of deserve a lot more time and effort. This is, it's drawing rough is not necessarily bad, but this isn't quite rough. It's sort of overly simplified. The images should have a sense of everything in the frame and the bank, and what is the design of the bank, and is it in perspective, and is there anything behind it, and a little bit more, really just more time and effort on the drawings. I think you need. And yeah, this one just has just a few letters, and even the letters, like how are they moving in, and why are they moving in? Like, does that help somehow tell the story a little bit? And Sylvain Sam Studio, like what about letters moving into a screen sort of says Sylvain Sam Studio to you? So I just think more effort could be done on the kind of both the drawings themselves and the concepts for this one. Finally, roemello. For some reason, this image isn't showing up here, and when I download it, it looks cut off. So I think you just need to try to upload it again, unless it's just still very slowly loading in. Is that the problem? No, I don't know what the issue is. I mean, it is there. So, company logo presents. Is that like a joke thing? Like the name of the company is called company logo? Either way, this looks very sketchy and rough. What of it I can see, and it's there's a spelling mistake like mountains, and so this looks just really quickly thrown together. And I think you need to put some more time into it, and then also just make sure the file is fully uploaded and functioning. So why don't you take another pass at this, and then let's get that file fully uploaded.